Hey everyone, I decided to give myself another challenge in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, and in this challenge we're going to be playing on Pokey Park, also known in the American version as Dinky Park. So, let's just read the description of the park. A small cramped amusement park which requires major expansion. Your objective: to achieve a park value of at least 1 million at the end of October year 2. What? 1 million? So yeah, I thought the scenario was a little bit too easy. So that's why I changed the objective. In the original scenario, well, in the Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 version at least, you need to get at least 100,000 at the end of October year 2. I decided to multiply it by 10 to make it a little bit more interesting. Now, that's not the only way I modified the scenario. I also changed the park name to Pokey McParkFace. And, well, you might be thinking that it may not be too difficult to reach the required park value if you just buy all the land that's available here. Well, that's another thing I changed. There's no land available here at all. So yeah, we'll have to do it all with this little piece of land we have available here. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a challenge, but I think I do have a good strategy for it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is set the research funding to maximum, and we're going to research roller coasters. Now, if you know me by now, you know that I really like to spam roller coasters, and we're definitely going to need to be doing that in order to reach the required park value. Now, how is park value calculated? It's a difficult formula. I actually made a video on it to show how it's actually calculated. But basically, yeah, it's dependent on the stats of a ride. Multiplied by a bonus value. So, for example, rides like Corkscrew coasters, they have more bonus value than a junior coaster. So usually their ride value, if they have the same stats, yeah, the value of the Corkscrew coaster will be higher. And basically for the park value, it has certain variables that affect it. I believe even the number of guests in the park affected, but in the end it's mostly dependent on the sum of the values of your rides. So yeah, also that also means that if you have two Corkscrew coasters, a really small one and a really big one that goes all through the park that cost 20,000, if they have the same stats, they will both have the same value. So yeah, in order to reach a park value, it's usually better to make lots of small coasters. So yeah, that's also what we're going to need to be doing here, because we don't have much space here at all. Now, one thing we will need to be able to place a lot of coasters is money. And in this game, the easiest way to make money is to increase the park entrance fee. Now, in this is a Rollercoaster Tycoon 1 scenario, so in here we can set a price for both the rides and for the park entrance. I will only, well yeah, for now, I will just increase the park entrance fee. Now, let's just take a look at these guests to see how much money they are carrying. So this one is 55, 65, 85, 55, 55, 85, 65. So the lowest value I saw was 55, so that's exactly what I'm going to be setting the value to. By the way, you can modify this value in this field just by using your scroll wheel while you mouse over it. It's an Open Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 function, which is quite nice. Alright, I have now set the park entrance fee. So, what I'm going to do now is add a little food stall, just so we can do advertisements for that. Alright, now I want lots of guests to enter the park, but now that the park entrance fee is much higher than what the value of these rides would usually allow, we will see a lot less guests starting to spawn. Now, I want a lot of guests to spawn because that's the quickest way to get money. An easy way to get around that is to start advertisements. The guests that spawn because of advertisements, they spawn separately from the normal guests, and they don't care if the park entrance fee is very high and there are no rides. The guests will spawn regardless. So yeah, that's why advertisements in this game are very overpowered. So let's start some advertisements here. Now I'm going to start all advertisements except the one for vouchers for free entry to the park. Because yeah, all I really want for the guests is for them to pay the park entrance fee, and after that I'd rather just have them disappear. And yeah, the guests who enter the park for free, they're useless to me. Okay, now that the advertisements were started, I'm going to remove all the rides in the park. We no longer need those. And I'm also going to remove all the paths except for a path just to catch all these guests who are wandering off right now. I don't want them to be wandering off in the grass. I want them to disappear later, so it's best if we all just collect them. Now, I see it's going to rain, so I'm also going to add information kiosk here. And that should earn us some nice money from umbrellas. Now I'm going to set it to 10. So that guests who, for example, had 65 and who just entered the park, that they will be able to buy umbrellas. I want as many people to be able to buy umbrellas as possible. I think it will get me more profit than setting it to 20. Now I want these guests out of my park as soon as possible, so I'll just put some banners here to all crowd them in this little area here. Alright, now that is done, I will now start preparing the land for the roller coasters that we're going to add later. Now I think I will just put all the roller coasters that we want here, just on this line. I think that will make it easy for us to build here. Okay, I will now wait until the 30th of March, because that's when we get the looping roller coaster. Alright, well, if you've watched my previous videos, you will see what I'm going to do now. I will add just a line of these roller coasters, and they will enable me to get a lot of money from the guests, which I will need later for the next phase of this challenge. So for those who haven't seen the previous videos, this is a really cheap launched looping roller coaster. And the exit is simply connected to this raised block. And this will, guests who exit the ride, they will simply disappear underground, never to be seen again. And that will just allow more guests to spawn, which in turn gives me more money from the entrance fee. Now you can also see I do 2-week advertisement campaigns. That is just done because that gives me a few free days of advertisement every time I do it, and that just saves me a little bit of money in the end. For the Thunder Rock playthrough, this was essential to actually beating the challenge. Alright, this should get me a lot of money from the park entrance fee. which we raised to 55. You can see I already earned over 10,000 from it. So what I'm going to do now is just wait until September, because that's when we research the Corkscrew coaster, and that's the coaster I will need for the next phase of this challenge. Other than that, I'm just going to use the money to raise up the land here in this area. That will also be something that will really help me in the next phase. And that's going to be quite expensive, as you may expect. Okay, I just realized I messed up a little bit, because in the month of May I actually set my research to 0, because for some dumb reason I thought we were done researching stuff, but I actually still haven't researched the Corkscrew coaster, so that was a little bit of a mistake. But it looks like we only lost 1.5 months, so we'll be okay. We should research the Corkscrew coaster now, somewhere at the end of year 1 or beginning of year 2, but that should be enough for us to still be able to beat it, I think. Okay, it looks like the Corkscrew coaster has been researched, so that's what I was waiting for. So now we can put our plan into action. So what am I planning to do? Now, in order to get 1 million in park value, we will need a lot of roller coasters. A lot. So that's also why I raised the ground here. Well, I think I will just start building, and then you will probably see what I'm going to do. Now, one thing you'll have to take into account for the park rating is that once you place down a ride and open it, it will have a high park value, or the ride will have a high value, but it will diminish over time because the ride has an age. One thing to get around that is by simply not opening the ride. As long as a ride is closed, I believe it will not age. So that should really help us get the required park rating. So my plan is simply to build a lot of little roller coasters here, and just before the deadline of the scenario I will all open them, and hopefully that will give us the required park value. So I will just build the well-known Corkscrew roller coaster. So we do powered launch without passing station. The lowest speed. I will give it a green color. Let's also give the cars a nice bright color. Doesn't really matter, but just do it for show. And let's give it a test. Alright, very exciting ride, as you can see. Now let's wait for it to generate stats. Alright, I will now close the ride. Save the design, and we can simply put down a lot of these. Now, in order for a ride to add to the park rating, we don't have to actually connect it to a path. So we can simply repeat the pattern like this, and we can even interlock them like so. So yeah, we will be able to put a lot of these in this area. So that's what I'm going to do now. Now for the advertisement campaigns, I think we have more than enough money. So I will just set them to 12 weeks now, because we don't have to really save money by doing 2-week advertisements every time. This should also save me some micromanaging. Alright, this is the first layer done. Now you may be wondering why I had to raise the ground to do all of this. Well, the answer is pretty simple. When you place down a coaster, you cannot make it higher or lower. You have to place it on the ground. So that's yeah, that's quite annoying. Sometimes it will actually go above a ride, but yeah, we wouldn't get a nice pattern here. We would be able to fit a few here, but it's not really consistent. So what I'm going to do now is simply lower the ground here until we can place a layer under this, and simply repeat the pattern. Now it is pretty difficult to see under here, so that's why I'm going to use an Open Rollercoaster Tycoon tool called the Cutaway View. So we can set the maximum height which you want to display, and that will allow us to view under these corkscrew coasters. Alright, that's the second layer down. Now I can just excavate more, and hopefully I'll have enough money to do another layer. What's funny is that you can actually see the guests dropping into the void here out of the ride. Alright, time to start working on the third layer. Alright, it looks like we can actually get another layer under here, so that's what I'm going to do next. Alright, I think this will be enough, but I think it will be fun to actually build a few extra. We can probably erase a few columns of land here and just put a few extra of these rides on top, because we have the space, so why not? Now I will just fast forward a little bit so we get some extra money, and then it's time to get to work again. Alright, Jesus. Yeah, I think this is definitely enough roller coasters to beat the scenario. So I'm just going to fast forward a bit to near the end of the scenario. So probably just until October, and then yeah, I'm going to open the rides and see if we get the required park rating. So yeah, just to give you an idea, we now have 124 roller coasters in the park. I think that should be enough. Alright, it's now October of year 2, so this is the month that it has to happen. So let's quickly see what our park rating is at. Well, first I will start the advertisement campaigns, because the number of guests in the park is also part of the park value. I will now start all advertisements, because now we just want guests in the park. It's probably insignificant compared to the park value you get from the coasters, but any bit helps. Alright, let's check our park value. It's right now at 106,895. So, we have a lot of roller coasters now. So, we have 117 Corkscrew roller coasters. Let's open them all up and see what happens to the park value. Now, I will speed it up a little bit, because they all first need to do a circuit in order to get their stats tested. Alright, it looks like we're at almost at 1.2 million park value. So yeah, it looks like we did it. It was a bit of work. Wow, we're almost at 2 million then. So yeah, it was a bit of work, but it was all worth it, and we actually went over the goal by quite a bit. So yeah, right now it's just a matter of fast forwarding until we reach the end of the month, and yeah, that should do it. It even looks like there's a little bit too many scrolling signs, so I actually see some glitching going on here. Alright, let's just fast forward until the end of the month. So yeah, there we go. So if you're wondering if it's possible to beat Pokey Park without buying any land, yes, that's definitely possible. If you're wondering if it's possible to go over the objective of 100,000, yes, I reached 1 million in park value. I'm actually quite proud of the result. It looks amazing. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this challenge. I sure enjoyed playing it. Yeah, if you have any challenges for me, let me know in the comments. I really enjoy doing these. And yeah, I'll see you again in the next video. See you later.